Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to do the chunky pedestal with the gather on it and the pillar together. I'm going to show you two different techniques, and I'm going to show you those projects together because I thought maybe you could use the techniques in tandem or one instead of the other. You might like one better than the other. So here I have my wood for my pedestal, and I gave the top and sides a base coat already, but the bottom I did not. Why? Because you want to make sure that you're gluing wood to wood and not wood to paint. So the bottom did not get, and actually, I'm not gonna put it on you. This is gonna be easier. So if any of you guys hop on, say hey, tell me you're here. I'm just gonna give this a really light sanding to knock off any of my little spots. And then I'm gonna grab this painter's tape. We're gonna do a buffalo check top on this. This may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I kind of thought it would be cute, and I wanted to show you just an idea or a strategy of something you could do. So gonna kind of see, put this on, and I want my sides to be long enough to go down completely over the side. And then I'm gonna use this extra little piece as my spacer piece. So I lined one up with the end, and I have a spacer. And then I'm gonna use my spacer to help me line up my next piece of tape. And then I'll pick up my spacer and move it on. And right now we're doing our horizontal tape lines. Hi, Barb. And then we're gonna paint, and then we'll do vertical. So I'm going to get that down. And then move my spacer. And this is totally up to you if this is gonna throw you off. You can start by finding your, so we're gonna have like a half of a space here. So you can always move everything back if you'd like. When you come to the end and you realize that you have a half space. This is, I wanna say 9 1/4. It's 9. And you can move all of those. I don't really care, but if you want to find the center first, you certainly can. Another way to do this, because it's 9, is, guys, I'm gonna have to take my hoodie off, I'm dying here, to do the ends in white. And then eyeball your next ones. to kind of even out your white space. So it's going to be smaller. Hi, Matilda. So you're going to just wrap you want to put down your horizontal or vertical lines first. And you can use your spacer unless it's going to be uneven and you want to kind of eyeball it. I got to take this off. I'm going to die, guys. It's hot behind these lights. All right. Okay. Much better. Now I can breathe. Now I'm going to take my, I think I'm going to take my navel and I'm gonna use a baby wipe. So we're gonna do kind of the baby wipe method of buffalo check on here. So I'm gonna take my baby wipe and notice I taped so that it was the whole way around to the edges, because remember, we're gonna see the edges. So before I start wiping any paint on, I wanna make sure that all of my tape is down really well. Okay. And now I'm gonna wipe my paint on with my baby wipe. And you can see that it's kind of, it goes on in kind of a watercolor fashion. So it's kind of sheer-ish. And that's okay. That's the look I'm going for. So I'm just gonna show you a strategy that you could use. And this is going to be the same for each of these. Actually, my baby wipe's a little wetter than I want it. So I'm just wringing it out. All right. And then I'm just gonna do the next one. And I'm gonna rub it on, make sure I go around the sides. I'm not doing anything to the bottom yet. I'm just gonna paint the bottom solid because no one's picking this up. And I wanna leave it so I can do wood to wood on the legs, but I don't want to put the legs on now because I think this is easier to paint without legs. And we're gonna do the last one. And I'm just making sure I get around the sides. Just want to make sure it's about the same. So I have 3 wiped on like this. I'll let it dry. Just a touch before I pick up the tape. And you can reuse your tape if you want. If you want to. I don't like to reuse my tape when I do the baby wipe method because I feel like it gets wet on the edges and then it doesn't seal as well. So now I'm going to take my tape off to reveal my lines. So I have my lines. If I can get to the end of the tape. And then we're going to tape in the other direction. And, oops. Oh, I knocked paint down. Yikes. All right, so now I'm gonna do just kind of like I did on the other one, where I'm gonna tape the ends first and kind of work my way to the middle. So I have even-ish pieces, even if they're not exactly even. The tape is a weird width, and you can use any size painter's tape. You could do wider squares, you could do skinnier squares. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to tape my ends first. Nice seal on there. And then two, three, four, five. All right. I'm gonna go straight down the center. And if you don't want to eyeball, you can certainly use the spacer. Make sure it wraps the whole way around. And remember, this is wood, so it's going to have some texture to it. So make sure you really get the tape right down to it. If you choose this method, you can also just paint this. Or you can use the Rit dye like we did on the spindles earlier. Or you can use, water down some paint and use it as stain. Or we're gonna do kind of like a rustic technique on the wood pillar. So we're gonna stain and then we're gonna paint and we're gonna distress it. Make sure that's on. One more. And this is really cool because when you do this, where the paint overlaps is naturally going to become the darker part of the plaid. So I did horizontal, now I'm doing vertical, and now I'm going to just take my paint and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go and I'm going to color over top of there. Now you don't want to rub too hard because you don't want to be rubbing off where there already is paint, okay? So give it a swipe and see how you're having dark over light. I mean, where it's double coated, it's darker. So I'm going to get my side here. Get my side here. And where you can see my wiping strokes, it's kind of like the same as watercolor. If you guys are watching and you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So I'm wiping it on. So here's what it looks like now. And when we take our tape off, we're going to have buffalo check. See how you can see where it's darker and lighter based on where it is overlapping. And since it's watercolor, it lends itself to like, it doesn't have to be perfection. It's a really good way to start it off because, or it's a really good way to try buffalo check the first time, because if there's not perfection, it's okay. Like, it's watercolor. It's not meant to be crisp lines. That's not the nature of watercolor. I'm just taking my baby wipe and I'm going a little bit over the edges to make sure that it kind of just flows. See this part right here? I just want to make sure that that looks finished. Just like that. So here's our top. Now we're going to glue on our legs. And I only have a pen here, but that's okay. So here's our legs to our pedestal. Do you love it, Matilda and Barb? Yeah, I thought it would be fun. Now, I'm gonna do for the legs. So here's how I like to do the legs. And remember, I didn't paint the underneath because we want to do wood to wood. I'm gonna put my legs on, and I kind of just like lined up my circles with both of the edges. And what I did to help myself remember where they were gonna go was draw a little line. You guys see that? And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And draw a little line. And here. And here. So now I have my little lines to line it up with. Now I know there was like a little debate over this. What kind of glue do we have to use? You can use whatever kind of glue you want. If you're gonna use hot glue though, I would encourage you to use hot glue that is, says that it's good for wood, like Gorilla Hot Glue. And also be aware that if you put it outside, the temperature change could possibly affect the glue. I like, for something as big and chunky as this, we're doing the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. This is like $6. It goes a really long way. So you're just gonna take, and this has a nice little lip on it. You're gonna take and, actually, it doesn't really matter. You could do your stencil first if you wanted to, but it doesn't really matter. I always have to like get this going, so I'm afraid it's gonna like bust out of there. Okay. So I'm just putting down a ring of super glue, and then I'm lining it up with my circle line that I drew, and I'm just gonna let it set for a second. And then I'll move on to the next one. And you could paint these legs before you put them on, if you wanted to. I did not, because I feel like they're easier to paint when they are on rather than holding them in your hand. And I'm just lining it up with the circles that I drew so that I kind of get them in the spot that I want them. That ruler was cold. I thought it was hot, or I thought it was super glue on my arm. Okay, so they're all on. I'm gonna get out my paint that I want to use for the legs. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna use this paint for the legs. It's called Trinket, and I thought that these oh no, I was gonna do orange, that's right. That's right, I changed my mind. Although, orange or yellow? I'm gonna go orange. Oh. Let's give it a little pressure. Oh, Barb said yellow. I think I actually might. So I can do this yellow, or I can do, that thing's been booby trapping me all day. My mustard chalk paint yellow. I'm gonna go with the chalk paint yellow. It's a little bit less stark. Okay, let me cover this up. Actually, before I cover that up, while these are setting, your pillar, you're going to put your hot glue, regular glue, super glue on the bottom, and then, because we're always doing wood to wood here, guys, so you're gonna eyeball, kind of center it in there. The nice thing too when you do wood to wood is that if you have any like glue slop, like I have a little bit right here, you can paint right over it. So I'm putting that on, and then I'm going to add some up there. That's probably way more super glue than I need. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to let my pillar set. We have it together wood to wood. This is gonna set and dry while we finish our pedestal. And basically, you don't even need me to put this together, really. I'm just sharing a few techniques with you. It's wood to wood, glue it together, paint it, stain it, do whatever you want, add the stencil. So I'm just more or less sharing a few ideas with you. So I'm gonna use this vintage mustard chalk paint here, and add it to my foil. It's a little bit lighter than I'd like it to be, so add just a touch of this orange. Maybe. See, guys, it's not the FIFO bottle. Yucky. I'm just adding a touch of orange just to make my yellow a little more rich. I don't even know if you guys can see that. It's kind of a reverse egg, or maybe like an egg, I don't know. And I'm just gonna mix that up. And I'm mixing latex paint into chalk paint. Uh-oh. No, really, it's fine. It's just going to add some depth to my color. And then I'm gonna paint the bottom. And I just wanna be careful on the edges. Not to go over. You could paint the bottom white too. That would be fine. I'm just painting it with this because that's the color I'm gonna paint my legs. So it will be You guys see what I'm doing with my brush? I'm kind of flattening it out on the edges to give myself a crease. And you're gonna go around, do your corner. If you get a little over, just wipe it off with your hand. Not a big deal. It will come right off if it's wet. I chose chalk paint for this because I felt like it would coat pretty much in one coat. This might take two since it's a lighter color. So we have a plaid top and solid legs in a really fun color scheme. And we chose yellow, deepened it up a little bit. You can kind of see on the bottom here how the color is getting darker as it dries too. Go around your leg. And when we flip it over, we can add our stencil. And it will be ready to decorate. In my mind, this was for fall because there's a lot of navy. I'm seeing a lot of navy with yellow and orange, and I'm loving that color combination. So kind of thought it would be really cute with that pumpkin that we just made. Okay. Almost done. 2 more legs to finish up. And we can flip it over, and that's the fun part. Oh my. Lordy Lou. Crummy. And inevitably, you're probably going to flip it over and be like, ah, I missed a whole spot on the leg. No big deal. Flip it back over and fix it. Okay, last leg. Ooh. See how much darker it's getting as it's drying too? The color is a lot richer than it looks like when it's wet. And this will work, again, latex, acrylic, chalk, whatever kind of paint you want to use. It's solid natural wood, so if you wanted to get crazy and stain it, you could do that too. It's totally up to you. Oh, I told you guys, you're gonna see that you totally missed a part. Yep, I turned it around and I have a whole missing part over here. And a whole missing part over here. Lordy Lou, what was I doing? I guess it wasn't facing me, but. Okay. So now we have our yellow legs, our blue top, and Matilda, you're gonna stain yours. Have you tried any of those stains like Debbie was talking about last night, the Dixie Belle water-based stains? You could also do a paint staining method. That's the one that I used in my live earlier, this guy. I just did the paint stain with this is cast iron Sherwin-Williams. And that's what this one is. Where you kind of just water down the paint like we did on the spindles earlier. So now I'm just going to take my stencil off the backer, kind of eyeball it, and it just fits on here, so. All right, and then I'm going to rub it down, and you could use like a credit card, you know, gift card, something to get it down. I find usually that if, so because this is wood and there are some divots, you want to make sure you give it a good little rub. And I'll show you what I do after I take my transfer tape off. That usually helps me get the vinyl on nice and good. Okay. After I take my transfer tape off, hey TJ, it's Naval by Sherwin-Williams. I take the backer paper, the shiny side, and I put it on my stencil and I give it a rub down because it flows really nicely over top of your stencil and it doesn't pick up anything like, you know, different pressure in your fingers might or things like that. Like it just pretty much helps you get your stencil sealed down nice and tight. Okay, so I'm gonna take a makeup sponge. Like I knew I had some here. And cut off the top so I can reuse this one. And I'm gonna use my yellow just to kind of tie it all together. And that's a lot. And I'm gonna give it a light coat to help avoid bleeding. Okay, I have it on there, and you know, we're going over blue, so we want to make sure that it's a nice solid word. So I'm going to give it a second to dry, and you kind of have to let it dry in between coats or it's going to pick up your paint. So I'm going to just give it just a second to dry. And then I'm going to add a second coat. Okay, now we're ready to take off our stencil. And you can use a little needle, an X-Acto knife, some tweezers, just to pick out your vinyl insides of the letters. Usually if you just get a little pin around it or underneath it, you can lift it right up. Gently. All right. And there we have it. I know it's backwards for you guys, but it says gather. And really, depending on how you dress this up, it could totally be fall or spring. I love the colors to go with something very simple, like, like this pumpkin. And even I'm like looking, this guy's kind of small, might work. Our warty gourd pumpkin, and you can have him and maybe a little fall sign, and super cute. So whatever color scheme you want to do, you want to do a pattern, you don't want to do a pattern, all you want to remember is wood to wood is what you want to be gluing your legs to. If you choose to do hot glue, you're going to want to make sure you have a hot glue that is Matilda, that would be really pretty. That would be really pretty. If you do hot glue, you just want to make sure it's rated for wood. So let's move on to our pillar. So we used our super glue and we glued the top and bottom onto our pillar. I have my little pillar kit right here, and I'm going to grab, well, we're gonna do some paint staining. So this is my Turkish coffee paint container, and this is the color I like to do, like for, maybe guys, for like underneath when I'm going to distress. Lordy Lou. All right, plan B. We're going to, this is the bowl I always use. It has the paint in it. So we're just gonna do paint and water mixture. I gotta find my Turkish coffee. Here it is. So we're going to do some paint, and we're gonna do some water, and I'm going to do a sponge. This one has been used on Turkish coffee. Totally okay to reuse it. I'm gonna mix it up in here until I have kind of like a mud puddly texture. And all I'm gonna do is wipe down my wood. just like you are regularly staining, you want to go with the green. But see how you can still see the green in there. So we're not full out matte painting, or we're not looking for a solid coat. We're looking to stain essentially the wood with the paint. And the water helps it really spread nicely and kind of soak into the paint. And it's really cool because you can see the wood grain straight through. So this method with this paint, you could totally leave your pillar like this. Clearly you'd want to have smooth lines, but we're painting over it, so I'm not too concerned. But if you wanted to, you totally leave it like that, and just make sure you had like solid strokes, and it would look really nice, like it was just stained like a walnut color. You don't have to do the bottom, no one's gonna see the bottom, but if you want to, you can. Okay. So there we have just our paint stain on. And after you finish this, just keep it to the side because you'll probably call back out on it again. If you did our everyday Farmhouse tiered tray bundle, you've definitely seen me do this technique before. And then I'm just gonna turn it over to make sure that I get the underneath and I don't forget that part. Okay, so now we have it stained all with the Turkish coffee paint all the way around, all over. And we're gonna let it dry. And really, this would be pretty to just let this dry and then do the stenciling in white. That would be really pretty. Should have started with this. Should have done this while I was painting the, I should have had this drying while I was painting the pedestal. You just don't want it wet when you go to paint over it because it's going to pull up the brown paint and make your top color kind of muddy. Now, my favorite off-white is Natural Linen by Sherwin-Williams. It actually reminds me of unbleached muslin as the color. And I really like this color for kind of farmhouse looks. So now I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna take my chip brush I used earlier, and I'm gonna give this a coat of white. No, I'm not gonna take that chip brush. That is awful. I'm gonna take a regular paintbrush. Get a coat of white. And I'm just gonna go over it. I kind of want my paint lines to be neater, but it doesn't have to totally cover it, because we are gonna distress it. But you don't want things going every direction either. It gets tricky whenever you get to the bottom because the wood grain's going 2 different ways. And you could use this same strategy that we're doing here. You could use it on that large pedestal too. So that's kind of why I wanted to do these 2 videos together, because the strategies could be intermixed. You could have done the top and bottom of this buffalo check and the center a different color. You could have really done the center buffalo check and the word a different color, the word in the top and bottom. I mean, really, it's totally up to you. I just wanted to show you a few ideas. And like I said, you don't really need a tutorial on how to put this together because you're pretty much just gluing it together. But I think it's fun to kind of share some ideas of what you can do with it. And feel free after you make yours to share it in this group too. Okay, almost done here. And you can see I'm not getting these the whole way. I'm going to be taking some of the paint off anyway, so I'm not going to like stress myself out making sure that I have it completely coated when I know I'm going to take paint off anyways. Okay, now we're completely coated. And I'm gonna take, night, love you. I'm gonna take my, isn't it nice, Matilda? It's kind of chippy and distressed, but we're gonna make it even more so. I'm gonna take my, sorry guys, I'm falling apart here. Heat gun. And dry this up. And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to distress it with sandpaper, and then I'm going to kind of go over it a little bit to make it look even more so. And if it's not like stark dry, I'm not that worried about it because it'll make the distressing slightly easier. I'm going to use my little sander. I'm actually going to change the pad because that has green paint on it, and I don't want green paint on my project. So where's my sanding pads in here? Here we go. All right. Oh, that one has even more green. Okay. And this is Velcro, so you just have to add the little pad and you're good to go. So now I'm gonna go, especially on the edges and the corners. And kind of take off my paint, and you're gonna see your stain underneath, and some spots you're gonna see the whole way down to the raw wood, and that's fine. I'm gonna show you what you can do with that. Okay, I like to do top and bottom first. And then the center. So I'm going to go along the edges, and any of the spots where I can especially see my brush strokes. I hate saying that word, or that combination of words. I'm going to kind of focus on, so I can kind of make it a little smoother looking. So you can see now we added a little shabby to our chic here. And oh, about to knock something off the table, guys. All right, now I'm gonna grab, I would say paper towel, except I knocked those way far back. So I'm just gonna use a regular, like a rag, and dust all of my paint particles off of here. Oh, I stuck it in the paint. Oh well, that's okay. And so now we have this nice chippy, distressed piece. We're going to take this sponge, and I'm gonna put it back in my little Turkish coffee mud puddle. But I'm gonna squeeze some of it off. So now I have it on my sponge, and I have my rag. Actually, we don't need that much, so. Now I'm gonna take this, and anywhere I have my raw wood, I'm gonna brush that on there, and then I'm going to wipe it off. So it's gonna have a chance to kind of soak in and really darken up the edges. But not stay there. So I wanna treat it almost like a stain. And I'm gonna focus on the corners. So wipe it on and wipe it off, and that will soak into your raw wood, and it will take your distressing, like kick it up a notch. So it's gonna look a lot more distressed. If you have a spot like this where you have more brown than where you want it, take a little bit of water and add it and then you can wipe some of that away. So I'm just gonna go through and wipe it on, wipe it off. And by wiping it on and wiping it off, you don't have those stark lines like you just wiped it on. It kind of becomes one with it. I'm going to mainly just focus on the edges here because that's where I got down to the raw wood. And there you go. So now you have a nice distressed pedestal. And I'm going to pick my side for where I want to do my stencil. I think I'm going to do this one. Which face do I want forward? And I'm going to give the front of it a light sanding. Make sure I get the dust off. So it's a nice smooth surface to take my stencil. And here's my stencil. I'm gonna peel it off the backing paper. I always save this so I can really put it on nicely. Now, I'm gonna tell you, for what I like about this, I always give you guys a border on your stencil so you don't have to fuss with it, getting it off the paper or any of that stuff. I just feel like that makes it easier on you. So I would cut that bottom off so that it was flush because you have plenty of other borders to get it where it needs to go, but this will help you keep everything straight. So I'm going to put that on. I'm going to rub it on. And peel it off. So you want to push and pull with your transfer tape. Lordy Lou, I got an itchy nose. Okay. And then I take this is my backer, my shiny side, and then there's the not shiny side. I like to take this and rub my stencil on. It's better than using your hand. It glides over it really nicely, and you don't have to worry about getting caught on any of the parts that you don't want to have pull up. So here is the stencil on. You're going to do the same thing we did with the Gather stencil, and I just cut that off. I'm still using the same makeup sponge. Actually, how weird and random, but put that up right now. I keep stepping on it. Let me grab my black chalk paint right here. Oops. Okay. And there's a ton on the lid of this, so I like to use chalk paint for this. I'm gonna get just a little on here. You don't have to, any paint will do. I'm gonna get a little on, I'm gonna dab it off. Coat my stencils. If you wanted to, you could take your transfer tape and you could put it across the bottom here. So as you get close to the bottom, if you're worried about going over or getting it on the wood, it's protected. And our stencil is on. I mean, it's stenciled, it's painted. Peel off my my stencil vinyl. And then I'm going to use my pin, or you can grab tweezers, whatever you want to do. Get under that center of my O. Pull it up. And there we have it. Now, I was like, I know I brought it. Now we have our wreath and our nail. So you're just gonna simply take your nail. I put mine, oh, I don't know, about an inch down from the bottom. Kind of eyeballed the center. Put it in with your hammer. Actually, mine's a little too far up. Good thing you won't see my little dot. My wreath will cover it up. There we go. Let me. My wreath goes on, and there I have my cute home pedestal ready for something adorable to go on top. We're just gonna like beat a dead horse here tonight. I know with the greens that's a little too much, but you get the picture. Okay, so no matter what you decide to put on top, it's gonna be stinking cute. And that's pretty much the process for doing this. For both of these projects, you didn't really need me to show you how to paint them or anything. The basics of it is make sure you glue wood to wood, raw wood to raw wood, with either a hot glue rated for wood or the super glue gel, or wood glue would be fine. I like the super glue gel because it sets pretty quickly. You could do the paint stain and distress technique like this. What is another tip I shared? I always like to use my vinyl backing with the shiny side to make sure my stencil goes down nicely. You can mix up your color and your patterns with your buffalo check and a solid leg. I know that's really glaring on there, but it says gather. And kind of mix things up that way. It's totally up to you how you want to paint them. But when you're putting them together, that's what you want to remember is gluing wood to wood, and then take it from there and also share with us because I'd love to see what yours looks like. Considering what time it is, I think that I will call it quits for videos tonight, and I will hop on tomorrow and finish up with the kindness set and the pillow. The pillow will probably take all of 10 minutes to complete, and the kindness set takes a little bit longer, but the boys are home and I will be home probably for a little while tomorrow, so I'm going to finish up the last two videos tomorrow. If anyone has any questions, let me know, and I'd be happy to help you or answer your questions. Be sure and post your pictures so we can see your masterpieces. Take care, everyone, and have a good night.